Spencer White, if you are watching this video, just give yourself one of them ones. You've done a good job. In this video by Beyond Defeat, we're taking our first run in the Saucony Endorphin Pro. So this is the second carbon shoe I have run in. The first carbon shoe I ran in was the Hoka One Carbon X. With the Saucony Endorphin Pro, they did make 25 prototypes of this shoe and ran about 8,000 kilometers to get to this shoe that we are today. So very good makeup. I've been looking forward to getting this on my feet, plus all the Endorphin series of speed, as well as the Shift that's coming out later in the year. But this shoe is definitely living up to the hype. I did about 8 kilometers in this today, quite unfit myself, and the shoe definitely didn't hold me back. It was just kind of my body that did. With the carbon plate that is in it, I didn't feel it as noticeable as the one in the Carbon X. We will have a review coming on that shortly. Thought that I would kind of pivot a bit more off at the toe off, but it's just kind of a late speed roll, or there's speed roll technology in it. Just kind of gets you to move through that transition quite quickly. Underfoot, the experience was very pleasurable. Cushioning I felt underneath the carbon plate is kind of the main shock absorption. So with it running on an 8mm drop, this is a 33 to 25mm stack height. The first layer just underneath the carbon plate between you and the ground, I feel like that's kind of that shock absorption, so it just sinks into the shoe and just takes all that impact, whereas most of the cushioning that you kind of are feeling is just between the carbon plate and yourself. So it kind of feels like you're running on the carbon plate, and it's just a very pleasurable ride. Cushioning underneath, it just absorbs the whole impact nicely. It takes a lot of pressure off your quads as well as your calves, turning over the legs quite quickly, and you can easily pick up the pace in these as well. And with these shoes, I found it very balanced. When I was running slower in this, I tried to kind of do those 5-minute Ks or 4:45 Ks. It did kind of feel heavier running slower in it. So when you pick up that pace, it's just very nicely balanced. You turn over your legs very quickly. It comes into a similar weight as their Freedom. So I think these men's ones sit around 230 grams, whereas the women's are about 190. So it is a very, very lightweight race day shoe for the amount of cushioning you do have underneath your feet. As far as kind of the cushioning feels, it goes up quite similar to the Freedom. So if you have been running in the Freedom 3 and experienced the nice enjoyable cushioning of that, you will like the Endorphin Pro. This just isn't as flexible as the Freedom 3, so it's just a kind of a higher stack height, a bit more rigid throughout the whole shoe. So with that carbon plate, it offers a lot of stability. I wouldn't really say it offers too much propulsion, or you kind of get that kind of energized bounce back. It's just a lot of rigidity in the shoe as well as stability, so just gets you onto that next gait cycle a lot quicker. With the upper, it's definitely one of the better uppers when it comes to a race day shoe. They didn't taper in the big toe as much, so if you do like kind of your toes being a bit more spread out, it has a nice accommodating toe box. It's still running quite shallow throughout the whole shoe. With the tongue, it is a gusseted tongue. It's kind of a neoprene, only a one-layered mesh, so it is a very breathable mesh, but it still does have a nice kind of hold to it, being a quite structured upper as well. Nice Saucony logo that's got two different sides, so aesthetically this shoe is very appealing. With kind of the heel counter, similar to the Carbon X, doesn't really have one. They've just done a 3D print on the back side of this just to kind of help that not kind of stretch over the life of the shoe. Very, very well built shoe. Durability is kind of the main thing when it comes to Saucony. This is going to handle a lot of races, as well as kind of the tapers into a race if you're transitioning from your daily trainers into a race day shoe for your race week. So these can easily kind of add a lot of Ks to a race day shoe, whereas a lot of others on the market, you only kind of get about 4 to 5 marathons out of them. With the carbon rubber on your forefoot of your Sauconys as well, this just will be going very well to run through that to the PwrRunPB. If you are looking for that race day shoe, but you want actually something that's going to last you a few races, if not a few years, as far as durability goes, this is definitely one of the ones to pick up. Whereas your next percent, that kind of Zoom X, you definitely won't get a longer life out of it as the PwrRunPB that they are using in the Saucony Endorphin Pro. This just doesn't deteriorate when it comes to compression, as well as kind of the thermal dynamics of these shoes. So yeah, durability is definitely the main key point is this, especially with the kind of the ride that this shoe offers. Did do a bit of downhill running. I was probably about for 200 meters, and just the kind of sinking in, because you've got a lot of cushioning underneath that carbon plate at your heel, so that just absorbs it very nicely. You can compress that a lot, and it just kind of acts as a kind of airbag for your legs. It's not a Nike airbag, but it just sinks in very nicely. You can compress it, and just takes a lot of shock out of your quads and just your whole body when you are kind of running downhill. And with that speed roll at the forefoot, just able to kind of get onto that next gait cycle a lot quicker. We'll go over a quick tech rundown of the shoe. So with the outsole, you are looking at that full carbon rubber by Saucony. A lot more rubber in the forefoot. You got kind of the guidance on the outside, a slight bit of that heel. But with running with your 8mm drop, as well as being a race day shoe, you kind of should be landing on your forefoot or on your midfoot, just ticking over the legs quite a bit quicker. But yeah, very grippy. Did kind of do a few kind of U-turns as well as 90-degree turns in these, and it actually handled quite alright as far as grip went. Plus with the midsole, if you are kind of turning on that lateral side, it just absorb nicely. But yeah, durability, these are going to hold up for quite a bit, and they are quite sticky. Haven't ran any in the wetted at all yet. Looking at midsole, so a lot of technology has gone to this. You got 25 prototypes that have made up this midsole as well as the whole shoe. But you got a full carbon plate running from your heel all the way to your toe off. It's got the speed roll technology, so just kind of how the carbon plate is shaped just gets you off your toes a lot quicker, just onto your next step. With the PwrRunPB as the midsole, provides that nice softness, but you get a lot of energy return coupled with that carbon plate running the whole way through. Just a nice kind of couple relationship that these two are having. With the PwrRunPB that is on top of the carbon plate, I think that's where you kind of feel most of your cushioning. You don't really feel a whole lot underneath the carbon plate at all. That's kind of where most of the shock absorbing comes from, I feel. Nice coupled relationship, and they just work very well together. I did experience even running into a bit of headwind with this shoe. Just kind of didn't really slow you down at all. You could easily just get off to that toes and just go on to the next step a lot quicker. Moving on to your upper. So with most of your race day shoes, they kind of do as minimalist as an upper as possible, just to cut down a lot of weight. So you got your one layered mesh, very breathable upper, running with that neoprene tongue. Don't have a heel counter, you just got the 3D print locking in that heel. Very nicely dialed in shoe. I do love the toe box in these. Have experienced some toe box by Saucony like the Kinvara. They can be a bit kind of irritating on the big toe, but this kind of does run with that slightly straighter toe box, nice and round and just very breathable, so your feet don't get hot throughout the whole run. Probably look at using this quite a bit when it comes to later in the year when a lot more races starting opening up. Definitely have a review after probably a half marathon, if not a full marathon in this shoe, just to kind of experience how the shoe went on the day and how it actually handles in a racing environment. But Spencer White, if you are watching this video, just give yourself one of them ones. You've done a good job. Anyways, if you enjoy what we've done here, hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell, and give us one of those ones, and we'll see you in another video.